Okay, welcome and thank you for joining me for another segment of the Jane Irrigation Training Series. I'm Richard Restuccia, Vice President of Water Management Solutions at Jane Irrigation. And today we're going to be talking about methods of irrigation scheduling. Now, based on the amount of people who signed up for this, everybody seems to know what that's about. But one of the things that we looked at when we decided on this subject was there are various ways that you can do your scheduling. You can do an automatic schedule, you can do a manual schedule, you can do an establishment schedule, and all of them have their place. All of them have their positives, and some of them have some negatives too. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could kind of evaluate these and determine or give somebody, you, the viewer, the ability to be able to really evaluate what system of irrigation scheduling you should use based on the property you're servicing, you're managing. And if we could do that, and I think we really can today, our viewers are going to be a lot further ahead. So helping us do that today is Gregg Black. Now, Gregg Black has been involved with ET Water since 2004. He was one of the original 5 that got ET Water started. And when you think about that, that is about 18 years of work in smart controllers for landscape irrigation. Truly a pioneer, somebody who's been around for a while, but more importantly, it's not just being around for a while. Gregg's literally helped hundreds and hundreds of customers be better water managers, save water, and really reach our ultimate goal of conserving more water. So we're really fortunate today to have Gregg step us through this because definitely has the experience, but more importantly, he's got the success in doing that. So Gregg, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to our session.
Richard, thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and everybody who signed up today. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, look, we appreciate you. Anytime we have a chance to learn from somebody with your background and experience, we want to do it. So Gregg, I just want to start this off with a question. 4 methods of irrigation scheduling. How important are these, and what are they?
It's pretty important. As the market for smart irrigation has matured, as manufacturers came up with different ways of applying water to the landscape. So as we'll be talking about today, there are 4 methods that we use with Jane Unity, and each one really has some high points and low points. So we want to make sure that we explore that today.
Yeah. So these 4 methods are used by Jane Unity, but some of them can be used on other controllers, right?
Absolutely. If you have a standard timer in the field or another type of a smart branded controller, this webinar also applies to those controllers.
Okay. All right, great. I just want to remind everybody who's watching, we have the Q&A open as well as the chat. And so if you have a question or you have a comment, please put them in there and I'll get them to Gregg when it's appropriate.
Perfect.
Okay.
Richard, I'm going to go ahead. I got my notes here. I'm going to take it away.
All right. That sounds great.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Today, we are talking about the 4 methods of irrigation scheduling. After listening to our users and learning how they interact with their controllers, as well as understanding how they manage their field resources and customers, we learned, kind of a simple truth. We needed maximum flexibility for irrigation scheduling, but the setup and configuration, Richard, had to be pretty simple. So there are 4 irrigation scheduling options, and we're going to be discussing them today. They are fixed irrigation, user-defined automatic scheduling, fully automatic scheduling, and of course, our good friend, establishment scheduling. There are a number of ways to evaluate, as you were saying, Richard, or judge each watering option and to figure out which is going to be the best choice for you. So since many of us have kids who just recently went back to school, today, Richard, we're going to be doing some grading. Each one of the irrigation schedules is going to get a report card. So there are 3 factors that we're going to judge them on. So the first thing is, how does it work? Is it easy to set up? The second is, what's the opportunity for water savings with each scheduling method? And then the last one is whether or not that scheduling method is really going to scale across a portfolio. Fixed scheduling, it's the first one on our list. It is, Richard, the most basic type of irrigation scheduling. As you can see here, the setup is simple. The user enters runtime minutes for each station. So the question there is, well, how do you know how many minutes to use? You can guess, you can use your intuition, or you can stick with whatever method you've always used. Then you pick the days of the week when the controller should water. When fixed schedules are active, they do not adjust for local weather at all. They just run the same schedule over and over again. So it's really very basic, kind of the most basic irrigation scheduling that there is.
And this is what we all really learned on, right, Greg, is the conventional controller. Probably this sounds familiar to a lot of people, 4 times a week for 20 minutes.
There you go. That's the standard.
Right. So that's very popular. Unfortunately, still popular today, but there's probably some reasons why people do this. But definitely, I think maybe a contributor, and this is a question, is it a contributor to some of the overwatering that we see going on?
Yeah, it is. Many times a maintenance contractor isn't necessarily compensated, Richard, or will win another contract if he saves water. The motivation most of the time is keep it green and make it look nice for the property manager, the property owner, and the tenants. That's kind of the basic kind of requirement.
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that, Greg, because my past life at Valleycrest, the branch managers used to always say to me, okay, so we're going to manage the water and save them water, but the landscapes are going to look terrible after we do this, and we're going to lose the customer. And it didn't take them long to find out that just the right amount of water actually made the landscape look better, not worse. And once they understood that, once they experienced it, my job was a lot easier.
Oh, yes. All it takes, Richard, is 1 or 2 experiences to really understand how proper water application is going to help out the landscape. Less pesticide, herbicide application, healthier, happier plants, less runoff, less water, less money. The whole thing is really kind of ties together nicely, but you do need that initial experience.
Yeah.
So when we talk about some applications, right? So fixed scheduling is simplistic in nature, but there are some applications that may be appropriate. The first one is if you're in the landscape construction business, right? There's 2 things that happen after you're done with a job. You've got a warranty, right? Warranty clause that you have to deliver on. The plants are going to stay healthy and happy for some period of time, right? So your motivation is just to get some water down. You're not necessarily in the water savings business. You just want to make sure you can keep everything going before the landscape maintenance contractor shows up. It is also the fastest and easiest way to put a controller online. Frankly, it's easy for you to manage if you know the schedules are never going to change. So there's not a lot of guesswork or risk involved. And of course, if you are that maintenance contractor, you just inherited a new property, probably you may want to try to keep it green while you learn like the specific irrigation requirements of the property. There's always ins and outs at a property. Just keep the water on while you learn what's going on there. If you have a portfolio of sites, what can you do with controllers running on fixed schedules? Well, what did you promise your customer, right? You're managing these sites. Did you promise them water savings? Did you promise them to keep it green? Hopefully, you didn't promise a lot of water savings, as we'll see in a minute. There is no weather adjust, right? So across a portfolio of sites, a lot of different controllers, you can track basic data, whether or not your controllers are connecting, runtime reports, basic weather, that kind of thing. But really, you're not going to be able to use the online function to create any specific value. The last thing is, even though the controllers are online, right? So across your portfolio, you do have remote access. You can use your phone, you can use your laptop, turn stuff on and off, turn the controller on and off, limit those expensive truck rolls, right? So you can't do much when you're using fixed schedules with any kind of controller across a portfolio. So that we get the first exciting grades here, Richard. So how it works, the setup, I'm going to give it an A, right? It's just one page. There's a lot of challenges in our industry with the setup and configuration steps, not only for controllers and scheduling, but other devices that go in the field. Our goal here is always to keep it as easy as possible. Water savings, Richard, an F. You need comprehensive weather data to save money. And fixed scheduling doesn't use any weather data at all to make any adjustments. So the opportunity there is fairly limited. Portfolio management is a D. I was going to give it an F, but because the controllers are online and accessible via your phone or laptop, you can still reach out to the controllers and at least get a win or two on efficiency alone by not having to visit a site.
Yeah. So I just want to make a comment here. We're getting a comment from one of our viewers, and he's mentioning that with fixed scheduling, he can program in 2 or 3 run times for the day and space out the intervals, in a sense, forcing a cycle and soak, right? Letting water soak in and put it on again. So I think it's a valid comment, but is it going to help save that much water?
You can, so if you're a veteran person in the industry, right, you have maybe a little bit more sense of how much water to apply over time, depending on the plant type, your turf or your trees or your shrubs. So if you can dial it in a little bit, I'm not discounting the history that people can bring to the irrigation scheduling. My point about fixed scheduling is on its own, even if you're super good at that initial base schedule, you need weather adjustment, right? All the cool stuff that we'll be talking about in a minute to make sure you're getting the most value.
Yeah, exactly. It is time consuming to do that. I applaud the people who do it, right? It's better than not, but with some other adjustments, it would be better.
Right. So we're going to start down that path now, talking a little bit about user-defined scheduling. So I look at it as one step closer to a conservation solution compared to fixed scheduling. So again, the setup is really easy, just this one page. The user again needs to enter runtime minutes for each station. And again, how do you know how many minutes to use? Guess, intuition, or simply done what you've always done before, right? Your 20 minutes 4 times a week. Then you pick the days of the week when the controller should water. So here, I want to emphasize the key difference between fixed and user-defined is we're going to remember the climate conditions at the time you set up a user-defined schedule. Then as the days go by, we're going to track that temperature, the daily temperature changes, Richard. We'll apply more runtime minutes when it's warm and less when it's cold. So it's a simple kind of binary response to the temperature changes in your local area. So you get some weather adjustment, but the question there is, what if the underlying schedule, right, is inaccurate or somehow ineffective or inefficient? Then you got 2 things going on, right? You got that bad base schedule maybe, and then you're adjusting based on that bad base schedule. So suddenly you got the kind of the 2 wrongs not making a right scenario. So it can be a challenge for you going forward.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of devices out there today that are considered smart, but do that exact same thing, right? User puts in a schedule. If the schedule is incorrect to start with, all the adjustments are made off of an incorrect schedule, and you don't maximize your water savings.
It's true. And I think that these kind of simple things to us, right, veterans of the industry, known to us, we can work around them by suggesting alternative technologies. But there's a number of people out there who assume, hey, it's a smart controller, it uses temperature, that should be the greatest thing. But it turns out, as you'll see from the report card, maybe not necessarily the best choice. So there are some applications, right? So even though it uses that one weather factor to adjust the watering, there's a couple of things you can do with user-defined that makes sense. The first is a municipal requirement, right? Your city or county says, okay, you got to use a smart controller. Maybe you're looking for rebates. Maybe there was a recent law passed that requires them to be installed. Some of that is true for California. Some of it's true for Texas, Florida, other parts of the nation. right? So it makes sense there. Let's say you're just getting started with smart irrigation. You're learning a little bit more how it works, right? You're trying to figure out a little bit more about the science. It's okay to kind of ease into it a little bit by using this temperature adjustment to get some value for water savings. Maybe you promised an incremental improvement in water usage on site to your customer. Maybe in that kind of sales process, you mentioned how you could be more efficient. So this would be a way to kind of start that process.
Well, all great points. Yeah, all really good points on that, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. If you manage a portfolio of sites, right, what can you do with controllers running on user-defined schedules, right? So I just want to emphasize it's very basic weather adjustment. So at least we can promise the data you're actually going to use, like rain and temperature, are real time, right? Not historical. There's a little fascination in our industry with using historical data to make changes to your current controller schedules. Doesn't make sense to me, never has, but historical is a thing in our industry. It's not necessarily super effective. You can use runtime reports to show your customer your progress, right? So runtime reports will prove your controller is less active or more active as the temperatures change. So you can point to that on a graph. And then the last one is, look, it's a basic step to taking proper care of the landscape. Your plants are not going to be happy if you hammer them with water, right? Don't inundate your plants with water. Let's try to start regulating that behavior to really look at the landscape and the plants as an asset, right? Let's maintain and enhance our asset instead of possibly jeopardizing them by applying too much water. Okay, some grades. So the setup, Richard, again, one page, right? We've got a lot of feedback from our customers about the setup. It's got to be easy and straightforward. So water savings, C-, right? You're still going to pass the class, but you're using temperature to adjust a base schedule. I mean, it's something. It's, some would say it's better than nothing. It's something, but it doesn't suggest or give you the opportunity for maximum value. And the same is true for portfolio management, right? So you can think about selling water savings to your customers if you use user-defined scheduling, but don't overpromise and make sure you get a look at last year's water bills, right? You don't want to get out over your skis here because again, the adjustment is very limited.
Yeah, excellent, Greg. So we've got another question coming in, and one of the things we talked about on your user-defined scheduling was maybe using some percent adjusts from season to season, right? Making an adjustment 4 times a year instead of other adjustments or daily adjustments with a good smart controller. But how do you remember the following year? What's a good rule of thumb to remember next year what I set my percent adjust to the year before, so I have some consistency in my landscape?
Well, if you're working with a standard timer, you're going to be taking some notes, Richard. If you're working with a smart controller that has an opportunity to flag a zone, or you have a text field where you can input some of this information about how you're managing your technology in the field, then you're ahead of the game. If you do your percent up or down changes 4 times a year, maybe your contract says you do it 12 times a year, it's not going to be enough to track those weather changes. I mean, we're talking in the beginning of this webinar, 90 degrees in San Diego today, 70 degrees in 2 days, right? There's a big swing there. I could probably take half of an irrigation event right off the clock just by changing according to that real-time temperature.
Right. The great point, Greg, right? Because you look at it, it's typically, right, we learned this 20 years ago. We learned percent adjust, set it, program your controller like it's July 1st, hottest month, right? And then dial it down 25% the first day of fall, which would be today. You'd be dialing down your controller 25% on a 90-degree day in San Diego, which, by the way, isn't historically the average temperature. It's way hotter. So another point for why historical doesn't work. And then 50%, in December when winter hits, and then up to 75. And man, it's You might get some improvement in water savings, but we can do a lot better.
Yeah, those traditional seasonality changes, that's blurring now, right? So are you going to get summer weather in September and maybe a little bit of October? Well, yes, you are. Are you going to get winter in spring or spring and winter? Yes, you are, right? So you have to be savvy. If you're hands-on with your controllers in the field and you're trying to do some level of portfolio management with controllers that are not that capable, you got to be on it. You're putting guys in trucks, you're driving people around, you're trying to give the best value that you can, but it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So this is the setup screen for fully automatic scheduling. It may surprise you, right? It's also very easy. We're sticking with the one-page manifesto here at ET Water. I just need this landscape characteristics for every station, right? So you give that to the system. You're going to get a watering schedule that applies the right amount of water for that station, and you get frequency of irrigation that closely follows your local weather patterns, like we were just discussing. One key difference, we calculate the watering schedule so you don't have to. No more guessing, no more intuition, right? No more doing things like we used to do them. We used a little thing called science to help us understand what the appropriate scheduling and watering is for the site. Another key difference here, we collect and use the most weather data, more than just temperature. So we know what's happening with today's weather, what's in the forecast, and when's the best time for your controller to water next. All the smarts happen online, right? So you're not working with the controller, you're working online. There's that server connection. All you do is share your knowledge of the site. You leave your plant science books, your slide rule, and if you want to use a calculator, leave it all in the truck. You don't need any of that. All you need for fully automatic scheduling is share with us what's actually going on in the field, and we can do the heavy lifting.
But Greg, somebody has a question here about fully automatic scheduling. They want to understand it better, right? So the fully automatic schedule is, you put the factors in that you had on the slide before, you put those in, and the controller just calculates it for you. What does the controller use to do those calculations?
Well, it kind of creates figure like a soil moisture bucket, right? A soil bucket around the plant, right? So we look at things like root depth and soil type and slope and sun exposure, these kind of things. They help us understand, hey, if you're going to put water in this general area around this plant, how long is it going to take to put the water in, right? And since we're tracking weather, we know how fast that is drying out. So we get this kind of moisture balance calculation that we can run to make sure we're only applying water when we need to.
And so the variable here then is things like the weather, sun intensity, is it cloudy, is it windy, those things, right?
And so weather plays a big role in fully automatic scheduling. What we do a little different here at Jane Unity is we use as many factors as we can. I think that we're up to 17 now. As many factors as we can to really get a precise understanding of how fast your landscape is drying out.
So then, Greg, this is done calculation every day, or how often is this done? A week, a day, a month?
In the old days, Richard, once a day. But now with this platform we're running, we run these calculations hourly. So we're ready in any hour to make sure the controller is updated and ready to go with the latest and greatest schedules. We're really pretty proud of that. There's a lot of data analysis, some data crunching that happens in the cloud to deliver this key service to our customers.
So the cloud's kind of the secret, right? Because we have a skeptic. He's saying every hour we're doing a calculation for every controller.
Yeah, it's true. What we try to do is, again, do the heavy lifting for the customer, enable the customer to have some confidence that the schedules are going to be correct, scientifically valid, and what are they going to do instead of being hands-on with a standard timer? You're going to sell more, right? You're going to develop a better relationship with your customer. You're going to do more that kind of advances your company or organization in the market.
Yeah, so 24 calculations a day versus one adjustment every quarter on the percent adjust, right? Or, the really good water managers who are making an adjustment once a month, 12 times a year.
Sure, and that's great. I'm glad that there are folks in the market that take it seriously, right? They take the water usage and the plant health seriously. They want to do the best they can. What the point is we're trying to make is don't get stuck, if you don't have the right technology on the wall. We'll talk a minute about retrofit solutions. So you can just put some stuff on the wall and rapidly get to a point where you can adopt smart irrigation across your portfolio, right? So technology, not scary, right? Technology can really help us expand what we know and how we manage things in the field. So some applications for fully automatic, right? So when you're running your systems this way, it opens up a kind of a completely different range of applications and opportunities. Maximum possible water savings for each controller and each site. Gives you an opportunity to build a leadership role in the market, right? So if you go to your customers and you say you do advanced irrigation scheduling, you're always looking for ways to differentiate yourself, right? And that's kind of something we want to help with. We want to partner up with our customers to help them understand what our technology does and to really understand what they need to do. What do their customers need? How can we help to make sure the technology works for them? And maybe the most important thing, right? So you're running these controllers in fully automatic mode. You're getting maximum value. You gotta feed back the value you're creating, the water saved, the minutes of irrigation saved, money saved. Feed that right back to your customer, right? Because your goal, of course, is to become a trusted advisor. When you're a trusted advisor, you're giving this data back to your customer. You're going to be closer to winning more jobs. You're going to have a more successful revenue relationship with your customer.
Well, yeah, Greg, I got to stop on that point and say I can't agree with you more. I think one of the toughest jobs in America today is a property management job, and they are, they're under a lot of pressure. They get pressured from their customers to save money, do more, all for a very fair price. So they're always getting the pressure. They're always hearing the problems. They rarely hear the good things. So when you can print a report of water use and as a property manager, be able to submit that to your board for your board meeting so we can start to have some meaningful conversations on things like water management, I think you're arming them with a tool that they haven't had in the past that benefits the board, that benefits them, makes their job easier, and more importantly, establishes that property manager or that property management company as one that cares about conservation, water conservation, and sustainability. I think you're arming them with a tool that's going to get them even more business. So I really do like the reports, and I think they're valuable to a lot of different people in the chain here.
Fantastic point and well spoken. The other thing is it really helps somebody who's not really a salesperson, who doesn't necessarily have that confidence and sort of outgoing nature. If you arm them with good data that proves the value proposition, then people can relax, right? You can just deliver the data, show the value that you're creating for your customer, and kind of work the sales process, if you will, on that level. You don't have to be a kind of real outdoor personality. You can just work with the data to build the relationship.
Yeah, great point.
So here we are with our fully automatic schedules, right? So there are some specific benefits and cool benefits that will accrue to you if you're managing a bunch of sites, a whole portfolio of sites. So the first thing you can do is you can track irrigation effectiveness by using moisture balance graphs. And if people are saying, well, what is that? Well, this is what it looks like. So when you're tracking irrigation effectiveness this way, you can see some things here on the screen, and this is available for all of your stations, all of your controllers, all of your sites. You can see how much water is in the root zone. That's going to be the green bar. How fast the station is drying out. That's that tan bar at the top. And when the controller waters next, that's that blue bar. So you can see the pattern of irrigation and depletion for your stations and controllers. And if you happen to see something that doesn't make a lot of sense, drying out and not replenishing, you need to go right back to those landscape characteristics you gave us in the beginning and make sure those things are accurate. If they're accurate, I'll give you a good schedule. And this is a really powerful tool, right? It enables kind of what we refer to it as at a glance soil moisture status, right? So you're comparing that to the more traditional ways of checking soil moisture. Like you're doing a site walk, you're going to use a soil moisture probe, right? And those are the things you use to learn if you're overwatering or underwatering. If you have a tool like this in your toolbox, you'll know at a glance whether or not you're tracking. And it's really a fantastic thing to share with your property manager, right? Because it trains everybody to understand the pattern of irrigation and depletion, which is a powerful thing to know about.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing I love about this chart now, you must have taken this screenshot from somebody on the West Coast because there's no rain for the last month and a few days.
No,
But
sure.
if there was rain, we'd actually see the rain impact interrupting or in addition to the watering, and we would actually be able to see that on this graph.
Yeah. So what you would see is that dark blue bar replaced with a light blue bar representing the amount of effective rainfall that fell on that site. And you could see the soil moisture increase because of that rain, and then it taper off because of the daily depletion, right? So you see at a glance how the rainfall is helpful and beneficial, not only in keeping a proper soil moisture, but Richard, it's free money from the skies. The heavens are giving us, right, this water. And I think it's kind of our responsibility to use it in the most effective way possible.
Yeah. So we're getting another question in from one of the viewers, and they're asking, well, if I get 4 inches in an hour, do you count all 4 inches? Or if we get a 1/16 of an inch in 24 hours, do you count that?
So we count the rainfall based on the sensitivity that you apply to the rainfall on the website. So I think our sensitivity has 5 different levels. So if you are a water manager who doesn't get a lot of rain and you need to be able to capture every single drop, then you're going to set your sensitivity different than if you're a water manager and you routinely get inundated with rainfall amounts. So we can track either one, Richard, depending on how the customer wants to play weatherman on the website.
Right. But I think too, the question has to do with, do we count all of it as usable rainfall when we do our automatic scheduling?
Some rainfall is not effective. I think the latest research shows you need at least 0.15 inches of rain in order for that event to be effective. But even a portion of that is not going to be effective. So to answer the question, what we'll do is we will subtract a little bit of rainfall that is ineffective from the total rainfall that accrues on a site to make sure that when we're increasing the amount of soil moisture, that we reflect that correctly. And then if you get 4 inches, I'm going to go right over the top of that blue bar, right? So I'm going to show, boom, how much rainfall we actually got, and then the depletion based on that. So you can actually go outside the bounds of this graph if you get hammered by a rainfall event.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Another management tool supported by fully automatic scheduling is water usage reports. So the point we try to make here is there's no need to be surprised anymore when you get the water bill for a property, right? So water usage reports are here and they're here to stay. Here's an example of what a water usage report looks like on the website. So the cool thing here is whether or not you have a flow sensor, you can measure water usage for a controller or a site to learn how many gallons you're using. It's a powerful tool because once you know the gallons used, you know the dollars your customer is spending. So once you start talking dollars with your customer, at that point, you're building a different kind of relationship. If you can tell them, hey, of the 5 controllers we have on this site, controller 3 uses 4 times more water than everything else, it's a different kind of conversation, right? And you're talking about, well, why is that? What are the irrigation methods? What's the plant type over there? What can we do to manage that a little bit? But you need to activate these kind of tools to really learn about gallons being used on site. So this is kind of a key slide here, right? So instead of only tracking temperature, like most of the industry does, a fully automatic scheduling controller takes advantage of all the key weather factors that really impact how fast the landscape's drying out and when you should water next. So a lot of data on this slide, so prepare yourself, but I did some highlights here. So at the top of the slide, you can see we track temperature, ET rates, wind speed, humidity, solar radiation, and more. So nobody else in the industry tracks weather like we do. So this weather that we track, we apply to every station, every controller, every site. So we use this data in our algorithms to ensure the controller only applies what the landscape needs and only waters when absolutely necessary. So you see the little kind of oval things there at the bottom. So we can look ahead into the forecast, Richard, right? Those are all future dates to learn what weather is coming your way. And then we adjust your controller today before those future weather events arrive. So I've been talking about weather and controllers for a while, as you say, since 2004. Oh my gosh. So customers always say to me, how does weather data save you water? I mean, how does that work? The answer is this: the more weather factors you have, the more precise you can be in understanding how fast a landscape is drying out, right? And when to water next. You remember that pattern of irrigation and depletion that we were showing? You track that depletion number precisely, gets to be about half of the soil moisture, that's when you schedule an irrigation event. So if you work your landscape in that way, you can really make sure that you're being as efficient and effective as possible. So I'm going to pause here and just remind folks, remember, a fixed schedule waters without knowing anything about the local weather. A user-defined schedule adjusts for temperature only. And of course, you have a little bit of uncertainty about knowing if your base schedule is okay or not okay, or correct for the landscape. So this is a key thing. So let's say you've already sold controllers to your customer. Maybe you used a laminated sheet, like many people do. It has 3 options on it. Customer, this is the good controller, this is the best controller, and this is the better controller, right? So the problem with that is it can be difficult to go back to the controller, to the customer, and sell them another controller. You just already sold them a controller, right? So how do you, what do you do? So don't try to sell them a controller. What we're going to do here is we're talking about a retrofit. We're talking about upgrading the assets they already have on the wall, the stuff that's already at the site, and create more value. Besides, when you replace a controller, you take the whole thing off the wall, you have to disconnect and reconnect all the station wires, all the power wires. Very inefficient. Please, let's not do this anymore. It's kind of a waste of time. So here's some options for retrofit. On screen on the left is our hermit crab device that literally takes over standard timers and enforces smart irrigation. Next to it is an example of our panel replacement product that quickly installs into existing controller enclosures. In both of these examples, you install these quickly and easily. You don't mess with the station wires or power wires, and you can bring smart irrigation to your portfolio of sites. Very easy to do multiple installations. So we're excited about retrofit. So many slides later, here's our report card. Again, with the one-page setup, Richard, just one page, right? And we don't need any specialized information. You don't need to be a plant scientist, a horticulturist, a meteorologist, no "is" at the end of your name. I just need landscape information for every zone, right? Water savings created by using the weather factors that really matter. You know, your wind, your solar radiation, your humidity, and others. That's when the best value is. Because again, you're tracking that depletion down to the, you know, less than a quarter inch, right? Less than a quarter inch, smaller and smaller. You're tracking that, you can really provide the value. Portfolio management. Use scientific irrigation, right, across all of your properties to reduce water usage and build healthy landscapes. So Not surprising, fully automatic gives you all the value because we use all of that weather to create that for you. The last scheduling type is establishment scheduling. Not surprisingly, Richard, it sets up as easily as the three other methods, right? One page. You pick the start times, usually during the day when you want the controller to water. You pick the stations that have the new plants or need this style of custom watering. You save your settings and you're good to go. It used to be you had to be kind of specific about whether or not your plants or your stations were in the water window, out the water window, what schedule they were running, what program. Not anymore. Pick the times you want it to be active, pick the stations, and you're going to be good to go.
Yeah, Rick, I have a lot of schedules and things in my day, right? A lot of to-dos. With that establishment schedule, can I just automatically tell it to turn off at a certain time, or do I have to go back and remind myself in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 3 months? Oh yeah, I forgot to turn that establishment schedule off.
There is, right after you set up, you identify which stations are going to be involved. Then you can tell the system, look, okay, I need this off in 2 weeks, or I need it off in 3 weeks. So you don't have to fire up your Outlook and put something in your calendar.
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So typical applications for establishment scheduling. You just spend a fortune, right? You're in the landscape construction business or maintenance, spend a fortune on the new plants. Let's keep them wet. Let's keep them going until they are properly rooted. If you are in an area of the country or you're somebody who likes to do some overseeding, you throw some additional grass seed on there, gotta keep that wet so you can germinate properly. And then there are some areas, like if you're in the HOA business, right? You start to learn as you spend more time on site that this resident hears the irrigation go off, or something's going on over here, something's going on over there. You really want to create a specific start time for certain areas of the property. You can dial that right in there with establishment scheduling. It can be a pretty powerful tool to help manage specific watering behavior on the site. So I'll just be really kind of blunt here. So can you run a portfolio of sites using establishment schedules, right? So I'm just going to say, please don't do that. Don't set it up across your entire portfolio. Even though it's cool, it sets up easy, don't do it. So establishment scheduling is temporary by definition. Please don't run them forever, right? An exception, right? Use it sparingly, as I said, except if you're overseeing, right? That can take some time and many controllers can be impacted. Establishment schedules are just like fixed schedules, but they can run multiple times each day without weather adjust. So, not surprisingly, the setup is easy. The water savings opportunity is an F. But I should have put an asterisk on there, Richard, because you don't use establishment schedules to save water. You use them to water in your new plants, do some overseeding, and for custom watering requirements on the property. But I need to say this so people are aware, right? That it takes a lot of water. You set up an establishment schedule, you'll be using a lot of water. And portfolio management, is a D, right? It's not an F because you can easily set up and change these schedules. Like we talked about, you can set a date for the schedules to go away and the original schedules to replace them. So there's some kind of automation that we can help out with. So, on a portfolio level, they are manageable.
Yeah, no, it's great, Greg. It serves its purpose. We've all been in that situation where we've done an establishment schedule and we forgot to change it. And, and we have problems as a result. So it's great that we can set up an establishment schedule. We need it, and we can tell it to shut off in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We set that parameter too, and then we don't have to think about it again. We don't have to wake up at 3 a.m, sit up right in bed and go, oh no, because we know it's going to take care of itself and switch to an automatic schedule. It's a great feature.
Yeah. How about avoiding those property management calls when they call you when the water bill comes in? It's like, hey, how come the water bill? You don't want to get those calls if you don't need to.
Right. 2 months after it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, not good scenario. So, Richard, in closing, of the 4 methods of irrigation scheduling, fully automatic, as we've discussed, gives you the best chance to create value for yourself and your customer. The other methods are useful for specific applications, but fall short a little bit. when you apply them across a portfolio. So we'd love to help when you decide to adopt smart irrigation on your properties. And Richard, I think there's a little bit of tradition on these webinars to offer something special, a special offer. So I will do this. I will prepare for our viewers today a free site analysis for one of their sites here in Northern California. I'm a Northern California guy, but we can expand it to other areas of the country if I have some boots on the ground in those areas. So we offer guidance, Richard, about irrigation, controllers, plants, and water usage. So the way to take advantage of this is to use my final slide today. And this is me. My name, I'm happily here at Jane Irrigation. That's my mobile and my email. So please reach out, questions or comments, or you have a site you want me to go visit, and we can get started into learning more about smart irrigation.
Yeah. Gregg, thanks so much. It was a great presentation. I really appreciated really understanding and learning about the 4 different methods of irrigation scheduling. I certainly came away with an understanding of why the fully automatic schedule is the best schedule, or most used or best used for water savings. And what a generous offer to do a water analysis for some properties. I think you've got nothing to lose to do it, and certainly you can use that information to make a educated decision on if I'm going to save enough water to make this useful, how long it's going to take to pay for the controllers I buy. This is all the information you'll gather from that. So it's really, really generous, really nice. Thank you.
We love to help out. That's kind of our motto here.
Yeah. So we'll be sending a copy of this video to everybody who watched today. So this information will be in there as well. I want to say thanks to Gregg again for this presentation. It was excellent. Thanks to all of you for watching today. You can always reach out to Gregg also for any questions you have on smart water management or controllers. We are going to be back here on Friday for another lunch and learn. We're going to be talking about selling commercial irrigation systems. Right? What is attractive to customers? What do they want to see? What helps them understand what we're all doing as water managers to justify the value and what we're selling. So be a good one on Friday. Thanks again, everybody. We will see you later. Have a good rest of the day. Remember, all our trainings are on the janesusa.com website /trainings. We've got well over 100 in there now. So enjoy those. They're all for free. Thank you. Bye now.